welcome back to the Think About It channel. Today we're doing an episode of Rough Draft where we talk to South Jersey and Philly area authors. My special guest is Alejandra Rivas-Mintz. Hello, hello.
Heidi, how are you?
I'm good. Alejandra is a native Spanish-speaking teacher from Caracas, Venezuela. She has her master's degree in education and is AP Spanish certified. She was awarded the Spanish Teacher of the Year by the PASE in the 2014-2015 academic year. And today we are talking about Arepas for Breakfast, which is her first book. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm great. Good to see you too. This is awesome being
I-
on YouTube.
I'm excited to talk about the book. So full disclaimer, I was gifted this copy of the book around the time my son was born, not because I'm like a big YouTube sensation or anything. But I'm excited to talk about it because it is a hidden gem in our children's library. So I guess the first thing I want to ask you is, you are a high school Spanish teacher. You've been
Correct.
doing that for not too long because you're only like 45, so not super long. Um, so what drew you to write a children's book?
Um, so actually, I wrote it a long time ago when my daughters, who are in the book, were little. They were around that age, maybe, so
Hmm.
because now they're 17, 18, and 20. So I wrote that because I think there was a need in my neighborhood where nobody speaks Spanish to understand this tradition. So I wrote it thinking mostly on my daughter's friends because my husband is the one that cooks the arepas and he will make arepas for breakfast when there was like a sleepover. We were big people like into hosting because we have three girls and one more. What is one more? So he will make arepas for breakfast, and then it became this thing with my girls' friends, like, oh, are we gonna have arepas for breakfast? And then I just kind of wrote this story, but that was kind of like putting a computer in some flash drive somewhere, and many years later is when it got published.
That's really cool. So for those of us who might not be familiar, what exactly is that arepa?
So an arepa is a okay. Full disclosure here: I don't know how to cook. I had never cooked. So this is kind of like what my spiel that I do all the time. So it is pre-cooked white cornmeal that you buy at the supermarket. Now it's very easy to find it anywhere. When I first came to this country 30 years ago, it was like almost impossible. You had to go to North Philly or to very specific places. So this pre-cooked white cornmeal, you mix it with water and salt, and you make a dough, and then you can fry that, or you can put it in the oven, and then it kind of gets like a little crusty in the outside, and then you open it, you slice it, kind of like a bagel, and then you can stuff it with whatever you want. And I know my book is called Arepa for Breakfast, but honestly, you can eat arepas anytime during the day. So that's an arepa, and that's like a very, very important, you know, staple in the Venezuelan culture.
So the story itself revolves around a family of five living in Philly.
Mhm.
It's a mother who's Venezuelan, a husband who is a New Yorker, and three daughters. And the story sort of revolves around dad makes the arepas for breakfast, but it's grandma's recipe and they miss grandma, they miss abuela.
Mhm.
So you sort of alluded to it just a minute ago, but how much of this story is your actual story? How much of it is you?
So a lot of it is us because I took elements that are real that my mom will not come here when it was cold. Like she was not gonna come when it was cold, and that is in the book. It says "hace frío," I'm not coming. So um, so pretty much that the part that my husband is the one cooking, the one that I come to the kitchen and everybody's doing something but me. I do the work after, which is cleaning. Um, and only one time my mom came as a surprise, and that was pretty cool. But it's pretty accurate in the sense that when the girls were little, we live in the city, we live in Philadelphia, and that is we really enjoy the city. So going to the park, going to, the store, which when they were little was the bookstore, things like that. So it was kind of fun to kind of like do that, you know, like, based on my family. So it's accurate in the sense that, that is inspired on us, definitely.
Very nice. Very cool. What were some of the biggest challenges you faced taking it from that flash drive or computer file somewhere and turning it into a physical manifestation?
So, well, this is a funny story. So that I put in a computer somewhere. I remember showing it to some friends, and then I just left it. Um, so when I turned 50, which is 5 years ago, oh, it's gonna be 6 years ago. Um, so my husband surprised me with the book. I didn't, yeah. So that was a present. And I was like, okay, what's next? What kind of present can I ever give to this man now from now on? So it was actually kind of like the prototype, the rough draft uh, um, of the book with the illustration and everything. And then we just needed to fix a few things. I remember the drawing of the dough was a little gooey, like if you were making pancakes, that's not how it is. And things like that. The selection of the font and stuff, but it, I mean, honestly, there were no really challenges into making the book because I didn't go through it. It was my husband. I just kind of had to, change a few things or correct or modify. I guess the challenges are more like after once the book is published and I have the boxes there, and it's like, oh, I guess I need to sell the book. That's the challenge
Mhm.
in my case, because I actually didn't go through the process of publishing self, because it is self-published. Yeah.
I know that struggle too. I know that struggle too.
Yes.
Listen, if I think he deserves at least half the royalties now. It sounds like he was a big driving force
Yeah.
behind this.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. And I'm sure like he's the one, found the story. Okay, let's do this. He found the illustrator. That's why I never met the illustrator because, it was kind of like everything was done. And then after I made the corrections and, there were a few corrections, then they got published and then we started selling it.
So, what was it like working with an illustrator? Because, like, I know we have some friends in common. Um, used to work with Kevin Finn, who we've had on the channel. He's published a
Yes.
book. So like we have some people in our circle of friends here that have published books, myself included, but none of us have written a children's book
Hmm.
that requires like a lot of illustrations. So, I think you mentioned that you didn't know the illustrator personally. So was it sort of a thing where like he would send you pages of what he thought best fit, or how did that process work?
So my understanding is, before I was told that here, happy birthday, here's your book,
Mhm.
that my husband sent pictures of us, which is still is kind of like a joke in our family, because if you put the book up, I'm always like, oh, look how, tall and slim I look, and my husband too. And then we always say that my mom was not happy the way she was portrayed, like too old, you know. And the girls now, they make fun of each other in a nice way, like, look at your big bumpy hair, because now they're teenagers or actually adults. My oldest is 20. So, but my understanding is that Gary sent pictures. Sabrina at the time was wearing glasses, so then you can see that there. Um, you know, and I guess, I also liked that the even though we know it's Philadelphia because I because it's here, but it has a universal touch in the sense that it can be Chicago, it can be New York, it can be any city. It doesn't have necessarily. I mean, I could have put elements of Philadelphia, but it's pretty universal in that way. But that's the process, and then you know, uh, talking to. I actually didn't talk. It was more like an email, like explaining. Like the arepa is more like a dough. It's like there's no gooey or anything that you cannot have like a spatula leaking anything. No, you grab the dough and you eat it. If you're gonna steal something, but that was pretty much more like the communication, the colors, the font, um, you know. I like the style of the drawing. I don't know, you know, the Mo Whelan book. Mo Whelan is at the what do they call the okay, I'm drawing a blank. Don't let the pigeon drive the bus.
Yes, yes.
More Willem, right? So I like the kind of like very simple kind of illustration. The girls grew up reading that, and this one is like just kind of plain and colorful, and I figure that is appealing. I remember what the girls used to like in terms of illustration, so I was very pleased with his job.
Yeah, it's a lovely book. It's a very warm and very inviting book. It's a beautiful family. I don't know why you're picking on each other. This is a good looking group. And we'll show some pictures, but the pictures won't do it justice over the webcam.
Yeah,
But just to give the people an idea, like this is a beautiful, happy family. Look at these people
it
having a good
is.
time.
It
So it's
is.
gorgeous. Um, and then how, look at this woman. Look at that woman.
Yes, yes,
How could you
yes.
not love that woman?
I
You
know, I
know,
know.
so it's a very warm, very inviting book. And
Mhm,
it's gotten raves of praise, and we'll talk about that now. So I don't know if you knew this before. I sort of shared this with you. The book is a 4.9 on Amazon for reviews.
mhm, mhm,
It's got 50 reviews, 4.9. So you're doing something right. And I went through some of the reviews, and a lot of people talked about how it helps them reconnect with their culture, whether
mhm,
it's Venezuelan culture or Hispanic culture in general. It made them feel closer to their family, like their parents or
mhm,
their children or their grandparents, or people that were just sort of picking it up because they thought it was nice or thought it was cute. Said it really helps them introduce different culture into their family. Because it does
mhm,
talk about arepas, but then it also does like have some Spanish vocabulary in there that
mhm.
children can pick up on. So when you see praise like that, how does that make you feel as a Venezuelan, as a mother, as an author, as a teacher, as all those things?
Mhm. I'm no, it's amazing. It's amazing because you know, that's the whole intention. And then by writing something like that, as I said before, you can replace that with any culture, not only Spanish speaking. You can have, anything from anywhere that the grandmother, because that is actually, yeah, a lot of immigrants from all over the place that live in the United States that have read the book have told me that it really resonates because of the whole, the grandparents are away and then come once in a blue moon and then they cook the specialist stuff. So I think that part is pretty, a lot of people can identify with that. I remember I was at a special event with my book, reading it, and this Venezuelan woman, she came and she was like, "Oh, I have your book," and she gave me a hug, like if she knew me. And I felt a little bit like, oh, that is what it's like to be famous. Like people hug you and you don't know them. But it was really nice because she's like, um, this is exactly my family. I'm here many years. And one of the best ways to maintain and stay in touch with your own culture is the food. So that is something that um, I guess so many people can identify with. So it's definitely really nice to see that people like that part of the book. Hmm.
So speaking of events, you've done a good amount of readings at a variety of places, which is such a cool thing to be able to do. And I've heard that some of your readings you even brought your own arepas. I will say
Hmm.
I'm not upset about it, but the reading I went to did not have arepas. But that's okay. That's okay.
Yes, yes.
So what can you share one of your favorite like reading moments to these kids when you sit down and do a reading with kids? What is one of your, do you have a specific favorite moment or just like a favorite feel or anything like that?
So when I go to, I usually go to schools. I went to St. Christopher Hospital, which was really nice. I'm going to go to a library. I have been to libraries, but obviously with children. So I usually have, even if it's well, yeah, I usually have, if I have access to, I have a slideshow with the pictures of the book, I'm reading it, but if it's a larger group, I like to have a slideshow if they have a screen so people can see it. And the one thing that the book doesn't have um, is like the last slide that I show is a picture of the five of us now. And then it's like people are like, oh, like it's, like they realize that they're real, but the first time I read it in a big with a big audience was at Meredith Elementary School, which is the elementary school where my daughters went. So when and then yeah, I think my youngest was still there in the middle of school, and then yes, the kids were like, when I showed that picture, they were like, oh, I know her, or from the neighborhood or whatever. So it's always nice to see the reaction. It's like they're listening to a story, but then when they see the real people,
Mhm.
even though I'm telling them I'm this one in the picture, when they see the picture with daughters and everything, with the three daughters and my husband, then it's always fun. The reaction is almost like expected, like, oh, I think that, I guess that's my favorite part. Or when I tell people that I don't know how to cook, I always get a good reaction, because it's like, oh, yeah, I'm like, yeah. Or when they ask me, so which arepas are better, your husband's or my mom's,
Ooh,
abuelas.
that's
And
dangerous.
yeah, well, in one school, because it was like older kids, because I actually can read this to anybody, and then we kind of can, as teachers, we can always take it in whatever way. We were talking a lot about culture. It was, I think, a fifth grade independence charter school. And I actually said to them, I think it was them, but I don't know. I said to them, listen, my husband, not being Venezuelan, he learned how to make arepas exactly the way I like them, which is really thin. I don't like when they get burned a little bit. Some people like the black spots. I don't. My mom makes them, whatever, for whoever in the way they are. So I was like, in a way, for me, my husband's arepas are better. And the gas was like, oh, I can't believe you. The kids were like, you said that, and I was like, well, you were asking me, and I'm telling you why. But yeah, so it's a lot. It's really fun to interact with kids and all the kind of questions that they have.
Hmm. Can we expect more books from you in the future?
I hope so. And then what I always explain is like when I wrote this book, the Venezuelan situation was a little different.
Mm,
It wasn't on the spot as it is right now, sadly. So it was a more like, it was like a different reality where abuelas will come and visit you and make
mhm.
arepas for you and then go back. Um, but now, if I were to make a book, it will be like visiting the relatives that are all over the world, because everybody's all over the place because they had to leave. So, which isn't, it can be a really nice adventure having the three girls traveling to Costa Rica to see my cousin, or to, some other places to learn about different cultures. So the answer is, in my head, yes. But once I sell all of the ones that I have in stock, I think that will be the next move, and that's my goal.
Well, we'll put a link to the Amazon
Oh,
page
awesome.
for it in the description so y'all can add it to your inventory of fantastic books that we try to promote around here. I got one more sort of fun question for you.
Yes.
Um, what is your favorite arepa filling?
Oh, so growing up, I used to be really boring with my arepas. I used to like, well, I don't know if the word is boring, but kind of like always the same. There are some very specific Venezuelan cheeses that are just delicious that you can not really find here. You will have to go to like Florida or something. Queso de mano, queso guayanés. I love those. And I always did that. But when I moved here, I was just like, I cannot have those cheeses. So I switched to like a smoked Gouda. But I really, really like one that is, smoked Gouda with shredded beef. That together is nice. Or the other one I think they call that pelua, which is like hairy arepa, which I don't know why it's called like that. I guess the shredded beef looks like hair. I don't know. And then I love reina pepiada, which is a arepa that is stuffed with chicken salad and avocado,
Ooh,
and
that
it's
sounds
really
good.
delicious. And not to make an advertisement, but I have a Venezuelan restaurant that is really close on 4th Street and South Street, 4th and South Pujero. And I'm like, it's so dangerous that they're so close because it's like, oh, they're there and they're so good.
Very nice. So to sort of wrap things up, where,
Yeah.
if people have gotten this far in the video and they've really enjoyed what they've heard, where can they learn more about you and your book?
So definitely the Instagram account is the best way to contact me or to follow or to do anything. So the Instagram account is just Arepas for breakfast. And then, I have, people can private message me if they need to contact me, or they can make a comment or anything. That's how I have gotten some contacts to read in some places. Sometimes they're like, oh, so the Instagram account, Arepas for breakfast, is just like, I feel like that's the best way to contact me, even for the books.
Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today.
Thank you so much for having me. This is awesome.
Have a good one.
Thank you. Bye bye.